All righty, people.
Come on.
How we darn? How we darn? I appreciate y'all for being here with us. We are heading into Monday Night Football. And let me tell you something. It was not a good week for fantasy football for me, pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
The issue is when you draft all the players you believe in. Well, so far it's been great because most of the players that I drafted, my guys, the guys I believe in. I mean, I'm clearly in the playoff picture in every league I'm in for redraft. But the issue is when they don't perform well on 1 week, most of your leagues are screwed. So that is that's a tough situation to be in. Here in the Flock League, I need a miracle of all miracles. All right. We are down over 75 points. Last night, the Jets gave me -3 points as a defense. I could have started the goddamn Panthers. I want you guys to think about that for a second. The Panthers lost 40-7. They were a better play than the Jets last night. I would have more points on my fantasy team if I started the Carolina Panthers defense. Sorry ass organization. I'm done with you. Anyway, it wasn't a good day. Tyreek Hill.
Oh boy.
Hey, if Mike McDaniel needs to learn a little bit more of a playbook on how to get Tyreek involved, I have played so much Madden, so much college football. Hit me up. I am totally free to tell you exactly how you should incorporate Tyreek Hill, you dumbass. But anyway, so sometimes when you draft all the same players, for example, I have Tyreek Hill in a bunch of leagues. It's not good. Had Rashee Rice in a bunch of leagues. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, does it? But anyway.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Appreciate y'all for being here with us. We are going to be live streaming all the way up until Monday Night Football. We've got a double header tonight. A lot on the line, obviously. Cardinals, Chargers, Ravens, Bucks. I need Baker Mayfield to have his best ever day as a fantasy player. I need Derrick Henry to have his best ever day as a fantasy player. Trey McBride, Chris Godwin. I need the train to keep rolling with those names, so we'll find out. But hey, if you want your question answered and you want it answered at the top of the hour, straight away at the beginning of every stream, then go ahead and submit one through the website. Simple way for you to guarantee a reply and to get to the top of the queue when we answer questions. All right, every time we go live, if there are questions on the site, those will be the first questions that we answer, and then after that we'll go to any super chats on YouTube or any regular comments if those donations are done. But we appreciate y'all big time for being here. Go ahead and hit that like button to show some love. Let's start off with a super message over on the website, Badaki, and that is from BXR Dude. It's a super message. He says, Daniel here. What's up, gents? Flex Kareem Hunt, Juju, or Bigsby. And I assume this is going into next week. Already loved Kareem Hunt last week. I know it was a difficult matchup, but he's the dude, man. I mean, if you don't have Kareem Hunt ranked as a top 20 running back rest of the season, I don't know. I mean, what are you waiting for? You know what I mean? This offense doesn't spread the ball around the way they used to. Kareem Hunt is a focal point of their offense. I think he's got to be, and I haven't even updated my rest of season rankings, but before the week I had him 21. How do I not have him in my top 20 at this point?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to be getting all those opportunities here, and he's definitely Raiders to sign Desmond Ridder to the practice squad.
Well, that's because they Aiden was going on the IR.
Yeah, when it comes down to Kareem Hunt, I mean, look, he is on technically not the best offense, but he's just playing with Patrick Mahomes. He's always going to get you in that end zone area, and that's exactly what you want. Next week he's playing the Las Vegas Raiders, so I think I know the Jags are playing the Packers next week as well, but I think Kareem Hunt is definitely a must start going into next week over those guys that you mentioned. I don't know if Juju Smith is going to be playing. I know he has a hamstring injury, and you know, Juju always been dealing with those type of injuries, so I will be starting Kareem Hunt next week.
Yeah, Kareem is averaging over 25 touches per game since being named the starter. So he is that dude for this offense. And it's not actually a good offense, but he's just getting all the opportunities. So it'd be Kareem Hunt for me. Juju's not going to play next week. It's confirmed he's out. And then if Etienne plays, it's still a problem for Bigsby. But even if Etienne sits, I prefer the matchup for Kareem versus the Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree.
All right, cool. We're on the same page there. Appreciate you, BRX. I don't know if we have any other questions through the site. There are some team reviews that we'll probably get to today. Yeah, but why don't we start with the super chat on YouTube before we get to those team reviews?
Yeah.
So,
Demetrios, thank you so much. He says, "Hey guys, Vidal or Irving tonight?" I'm pretty sure he's in a standard league. I'm going to be going Bucky Irving. If I remember correctly, Demetrios is in that standard league. So give me Bucky here. I know Rashad White. We haven't gotten word if he was going to play, but I think he will. Yes, he is active for tonight. So I still go Bucky.
That makes it hard because they say they're going to rotate 3 running backs in. This is honestly a real, because the reason you go Vidal or the reason you go Bucky is because you think he'll get touches. But if they're going to rotate, if they're actually going to stay true to their word, which it would be hard to do that. You don't see teams get 3 running backs involved often, but if they actually do that, it will be a nightmare for the Bucs running backs because it's already a terrible matchup versus the Ravens. So if they actually commit to what they say they're going to do, it will be a nightmare. But we obviously don't know if that's true or not. But Vidal was really used very sparingly last time out. I don't actually know the answer to this question. I really don't.
Yeah, and I think look, I know this is going to be a 3-headed monster, but over there in Tampa Bay, I'm just going to ride the team that not the team, but I guess the player I feel like just has the higher upside. You know, Bucky has found the end zone twice so far this year. He also gets those opportunities in the air, which really doesn't matter, but yards do matter.
Sure. If they have the same amount of opportunities, Vidal will be the better play because of the matchup. But
sure.
We don't know if that's going to happen. But Vidal technically has less names to compete with, but JK has a stronger grip on the RB1 role. So I think I lean Bucky Irving as well, but that's a very difficult one to answer. All right, we're going to answer Baba's question here as well. We got to get to some team reviews. If you want to prioritize your question, definitely check out the website. I'll leave a link there. But Baba here with the donation says, I need 80 points from Baker and Evans. Pray for me.
Oh, boy.
Bro, I would love that. All right. I've got Chris Godwin, but any points from Baker Mayfield, I'm with you, dude. I need Baker to have his best. I mean, we need a 5-touchdown game. We need a Kirk Cousins type of game back when he was on Thursday Night Football when he threw for 5 touchdowns or 500 yards, whatever it was. So I'm with you, man. I want a Rams-Chiefs Monday night. Remember all the way back multiple years ago?
Please, God, no. Please,
when
God, no.
Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes faced off. It was like 54-52 or something was the final score. What was the final score there?
I think it was 54-52 or like 50. It was something around there.
54-51.
I would say that? Like, I don't want that to happen.
This is the type of game I need tonight from the fantasy gods. All right, and if you guys remember, this game was a long time ago, but Patrick Mahomes had 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Jared Goff threw for 413 and 4 tuds. We need a game like this. That's what we need from Monday Night Football, personally.
Please, no, thank you. I'm currently up by 80, but he has Lamar, J.K. Dobbins, Martin Harrison, and Michael Wilson. So that is actually really doable for the dev that I am playing in the Flock League.
You have nobody tonight?
I have nobody tonight.
Yeah, anything's possible. I think the devs are going to take us out. Kuba here with another donation says, with Russell Wilson, is Pickens a must start now? I think it depends on matchup. Still, like if they were playing Tennessee next week, I wouldn't say he's a must start. He's a spot start. But depending on matchups, I think the answer is yes. A lot of those were one-on-one balls though. So keep in mind, you're not always going to come down with a one-on-one ball like that. There will be times where, you know, those aren't as prescriptive as like getting, you know, Amon-Ra involved over the middle of the field or in the screen game. Mm-hmm. They don't really have like these layups for him. But for example, he plays the Giants next week, which is a startable name for like a startable matchup for sure. You guys are good, but your defensive line is better than your secondary.
No question.
He plays Washington, then Baltimore. So he's got 3 good games coming up.
Yeah, it just really depends on who you have. I'm not gonna say is a must start right now. I think I need to see it again. And he could do it again next week against the Giants, and they play Monday night at home again. But I kind of second what Zach said. I think two of those catches that he has was two big one-on-one balls. I think both for over like 40 to 30 yards, which was I'm pretty sure more than half of the yardage that he did have last night, even though I know he broke over 100 yards. So I don't know,
Which
man.
he can make those plays. He totally can make those plays. It's
100%.
just they're not layups, right? They're logo
Exactly.
threes. That's basically the best way to explain it. Those are logo threes. You don't always make them. So
It's just a difficult one.
Just threes for him.
Just depends on what you have on your team here, and we're getting a bunch of super chats here. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And by the way, if you do plan on donating, we would just ask like, hey, check out the website first. It's the pinned comment. I'll put it in there again. It's just a better system for you. It's easier for you to ask a question once you sync all of your teams up. And by the way, if you don't know, you can actually get a free account on Flock Fantasy. So I'll show you what some of that looks like. I'll paste a link in there right now to get a free account. Use the promo code LAND at sign up. And when you do, you'll get expert consensus rankings for free. You'll be able to look at the league analyzer for free if you have a sleeper ESPN or Yahoo league that you play in. You'll also be able to look at the trade calculator for free. Now, some of those, like if you want to use my exact rankings, you might have to pay or be a member. But a lot of free features over there. So if you haven't signed up for an account, definitely do so. And then what's great is when you look at the link that we have pinned in the chat, let's say now you want to ask a trade question or a start sit. Well, the good news is once you link your team, it has all the settings for you. All you have to do is hit continue and then start to fill out your starting lineup for there. For example, I know that I'm locked in playing Lamar Jackson, and then you can tell us who you're considering, etc. So anyway, definitely check out the website if you plan on donating. And last thing, full transparency. When you donate on YouTube, they take 30% of your donation away from us. Obviously, that's not the case when you donate on Flock Fantasy. So it's better for you. It's better for us. But we do appreciate all the donations. And let's start with Oscar here.
Yeah, Oscar, appreciate you. He says, should I trade Mason Hunt and I'm assuming Jameson Williams for Breece Hall? I love your channel. Just entered in fantasy in Mexico.
Come on, baby.
Awesome. Hey, appreciate you, Oscar.
Hey.
Viva Mexico, huh? Talk it up.
Obviously, there's a lot of great things about Mexico. But when you have a Coke from Mexico, a Mexican Coke, it is.
What's that? A Mexican Coke? Like a can of Coke? Or are you talking about something else?
They come in the. No, I'm not talking about Coke.
I don't know. I don't know what type of person you are. I mean, I respect you normally.
Technically, you're profiling right now. Actually, that's on you. But when you have a Coke from Mexico that's in the bottle, in the glass bottle, that hits different. That hits so different than a regular Coke in a can. I don't know what they're putting in it, but it's incredible. But Oscar here says, should I trade Mason Hunt and Jameson Williams for Breece? Yeah, I'd do that.
I would be okay with that. And I'll say this, Oscar. If you need, obviously there's reports coming out of CMC coming back here and hopefully in week 10, which is essentially 2 weeks from now. Kareem Hunt is a top guy, but Breece Hall is definitely a higher person that we want. And J-Mo has been very up and down this week, or this year. So I would say
I think I would even do this in a 12 team, but definitely if you're in, definitely if you're in, let's say like a 10 or an 8-man league, then this to me is the definition of a no-brainer for you.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah, appreciate you, Oscar.
Sorry, I just wanted to quickly check because obviously the coaching change has been so good for Breece Hall. He's now everything we wanted him to be when you drafted him. If you held on, you should feel very proud of yourself. But I want to read you a couple numbers, okay? Snap share before the coaching change went in the low 70s, around 71% in that span. He's now up to 84% in the last 2 weeks. The rushing attempt share at the start of the year was 89%. Then when Braylon Allen became a thing, it went from 61 to 53 to 53. And then in week 6 and 7, he's had 86 and 80% of the snaps. His route participation is up. His target share is up. Everything from a utilization perspective makes potentially Breece Hall the number 1 running back in fantasy football the rest of the season. It's a genuine possibility. So I like this as a, I don't even feel like you're paying that much to get him, to be honest with you.
No, I completely agree. I think it's a great price right now for for Breece Hall. So I think
Appreciate
it's a
you,
great
Oscar.
trade.
And sorry for the profiling from my co-host. That's not acceptable.
Fernando, thank you so much. He says PPR, my last player, Evans, Bateman, or McConkey. I think we would both go Mike Evans with no question here.
Yeah, you can't sit Mike. I mean, look, he's boom
Yeah.
bust, but this is a great matchup. He was one of my favorite starts this week, and any given day, Mike can go for 3 tuds. He can't be on your bench.
3 tutties, cuz you start Mike Evans here. And Joe,
Oh, this
appreciate
is a great
the super
question.
chat. He says, how do you value Ricky Pierce in Dynasty moving forward?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I haven't sat down and updated my dynasty rankings this week, but this is kind of what we were waiting for, right?
100%. This is kind of what we're waiting for.
I guess.
You kind of have to think about all the different scenarios. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk most likely won't be ready for the start of the season next year. There's already talks that Deebo Samuel is potentially a trade option before the deadline this year. Is that going to be even a possibility next year? I would say if those two things, well, really, if Deebo Samuel is no longer on this team and Brandon Ayuk is not going to be ready until after the first 4 games in the season, Ricky Pearsall could potentially be a top 25 dynasty wide receiver, potentially.
Yeah. Well,
those scenarios
it gets harder when you have to put names to that. So I definitely agree with like overall the notion of what you're saying, but that gets much more difficult once you have to start putting actual names to those rankings. So I'm looking at my rankings, and this is why I'm saying this. For example, would you rather have Ricky Pearsall or Wan'Dale Robinson in Dynasty? I think Ricky for me.
Oh yeah, Ricky.
Okay,
Ricky for sure.
How about Ricky or Devontae Adams? I guess it depends on your team, but
yeah, I still want Ricky.
How about Ricky or Josh Downs?
Ricky.
Yeah, that's fair. How about Ricky or Pickens?
Ricky.
That's not as confident of an answer for me because I think there's a lot of names in San Francisco still. How about Ricky or
that's what the
Worthy?
notion. That's what the notion of Deebo Samuel potentially leaving. Okay, like I just understand where I'm coming from with that answer.
Let's live in the reality we currently live in, though, right? How
No,
about Ricky or Deebo Samuel in Dynasty?
I want Ricky long term than Deebo. Younger player.
If we're playing, okay, interesting. I mean, look, if we're playing Dynasty in a 2 to 3 year window, I think I still prefer Deebo, but I get where you're coming from. How about Ricky or Terry McLaurin?
I want Terry.
Same. How about Ricky or Tank Dell?
Yeah. If Stephon Diggs is gone, I want Tank. But that's the same thing. If Deebo's gone, I would rather have Ricky over, because I think he instantly plugs in. So
I think based off of our conversations, he's more top 35 range than he is top 25. But if certain things transpire, for example, Ayuk gets traded or Deebo gets traded or whatever, he could definitely spike into that top 25. But that's more once we see production from him and consistency.
No question.
So
no question. And I think keep that in mind when I do say that. If once again, Deebo potentially already as a trade candidate before the trade deadline, and does that continue going into the offseason? And if that does end up being true, I do believe Ricky can be a top 25 wide receiver. But with all that being said, we just have to wait to see with production as well.
We do have some questions on the website, so let's get to those first. By the way, guys, if you do want to ask us a question and get a guaranteed reply and also help out the channel, then check out the website. I'll put a link in the chat for you. It's also the pinned comment, but this one's from D. Whitmore. It's a 10-team half PPR, 3 wide receivers. They have Kyler, Dak, JT, Dobbins, Chuba, Mason, Hill, Kupp, Neighbors, DK Reed, JSN, Bowers, and Njoku. And they are sending away Brian Thomas for Brian Robinson. 2 names that I definitely want to build around. They have JT, Dobbins, Chuba, and Jordan Mason. I don't know that I want to lose Brian Thomas, though. As much as I love Brian Robinson, I think this is a pretty even trade, honestly.
Yeah, I would say with your team here, I would think I would need Brian Robinson, because coming in, obviously, I haven't been putting enough respect on J.K. Dobbins, but I will still have Brian Robinson over J.K. Dobbins. And I think your wide receiver room is enough here to give up Brian Robinson. You have Hill, Cooper Kupp coming back Tua coming back next week. Cooper Kupp coming back next week. Malik Neighbors going to do his thing. DK Metcalf, obviously he's injured right now, but you also have Jaden Reed. You also have JSN, who's going to be, sliding into that flex position right now as well. So I will be okay with this trade if need be.
Well, JT's practicing again this week. Dobbins looks like the guy. I would rather turn Chuba. I'd rather package Chuba than lose Bryant. So, for example, right now, you start three wide receivers, and you are currently 3-4, but you have first in points allowed. That's just unlucky. But right now, if you are in a 10-team league, right now your wide receivers, you've got Hill, Kupp, Neighbors, DK, Reed, Brian Thomas, JSN. So what I'd rather do is I'd rather package Chuba or Mason with Brian Thomas or with JSN to get a running back. I don't think this is an unfair deal. But, for example, can you package Chuba and Brian Thomas? And let's think about the range of quarterback you might be able to get to there rest of season. Let's see here.
Yeah, it hasn't been working for me, so I'm not sure if it's going to work.
So, rest of season, if you package Chuba and Brian Thomas, can you go get a David Montgomery right now, who is, currently dealing with that injury, but should be okay? Can you get an Achane before Tua comes back? Can you get Kenneth Walker? Could you grab, Aaron Jones maybe? But now you've got a guy
I think
who's pretty much in the same range as Brian, but it's close. I just think I might want to try that route first.
Yeah, I would say it might be difficult to try and trade away Chuba because I think a lot of people are understanding Jonathan Brooks is going to come back. But yeah, if you can get those guys, I will be okay with it.
Do we have any update on David Montgomery? He did come back into the game.
Yeah,
No
we don't
issues
have
with
anything.
me. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't deemed too serious, but it's not a thing where like, oh, hey, we need Monty this week.
Right.
I can see him just missing a game, get healthy.
They say there's
Green
no
Bay
issues,
in a couple
though.
weeks. Yeah.
Did Coach Speak say anything on this?
I haven't seen that.
Let's have a look. I bet you they have something on it. There's Jaden Daniels. Okay. David Montgomery, he quote tweeted, David Montgomery's knee injury is not considered a long-term issue. Here's what Dan said. Is there a long-term concern for his knee? No, he's good. It was one of those where he has pain in that area around the knee and it's kind of in the back. Nothing should come from this. So everything sounds like...
Did he get knee in the back and it hurt his knee?
No, I think it's impacting just the rest of his body.
Or he needs somebody in the back, and I don't know. That was just weird. No.
What they're saying is that he has injury to his knee, which is impacting the rest of his body too.
Right,
he didn't need anyone in the back.
It sounds like he needs somebody, and then his back started hurting.
Right.
It's
Look,
weird.
Overall, this isn't like a bad deal. I just feel like Brian Thomas is probably slightly more valuable than Brian, but it is very close. I wonder if you could, for example, can you add Ken Walker and J.K. Dobbins to this deal? So you send Thomas and Dobbins, you get back Brian and Ken. That feels like you're evening it out a little bit more. Another example, could you add Trey McBride, and who's your tight end?
Never
mind. You got Brock Bowers. That doesn't matter then. I'm just trying to find ways to even it out, add James Cook and then give him Chuba, right? I mean, just these are two ways I think you can even the deal out a little bit more.
Yeah,
but it's close.
It is close. Like I said, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the trade, but however way you want to go about it. But we thank you. Who do we have next?
David.
Here?
It's a super message. He says, buy low on Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
I like the playoff schedule. Will Philly be run heavy rest of season like last week? Well, I'll be honest with you, Badaki, I expected a lot more from your Giants.
I expected a lot. I mean, I expected a lot more as well.
It was disappointing. So what was up with that? What happened? Like, I guess we don't need to go on. It's not really related to his question, but basically what I was going to try and say is they didn't need to throw the ball at all.
Yeah.
Philly.
No, they didn't need to. I think I would just say this really quick. We're a big momentum team. If we have no momentum, it's never going to work out. Like, we can't generate. We have momentum, and then once that touchdown got called back, it was over for us. Anyways, I'll be okay buying on Devonta Smith though, because they are going to need to throw the ball more. I would just say this, like, they have been struggling. I mean, and like the Eagles aren't just like even though Devonta Smith obviously missed 2 games, he still is averaging like over 14 to 15 fantasy points per game, but it hasn't been easy points. You have to hope that this team is going to struggle for these guys to get points. Playing Cincinnati, Jacksonville, and Dallas, I'll be okay with getting Devonta Smith, essentially. Basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, okay. I agree. I like the buy low on Devonta Smith. If we look at his, I mean, I'd rather buy high on A.J. Brown, but that's going to cost more. But if you look at his playoff schedule, Pittsburgh is actually not a good matchup. But then Washington, Dallas, I like Washington, Dallas. I don't love the Pittsburgh one. But that could be a big game for Devonta because they might be focused on A.J. Brown. But yeah, overall, I like the idea of buying him as a flex.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right. All right, David, appreciate you, man. The next question is from Savandy, and this is a trade question. Oh, wow. What do you think Ayuk's value is in Dynasty? I was offered a third for next year. That's I'll be honest with you, Savandy, that's about as disrespectful of an offer I've seen in Dynasty this year that someone's asked us a question on. We've seen some pretty disrespectful offers, but that is it sounds like you might be newer to Dynasty. If that's not the case, my bad. But it seems like they're trying to take advantage of someone who is just getting into Dynasty and starting to love it. And a third-round pick, there's the chances of you hating on a third-round pick of someone who have the value of a Brandon Ayuk with proven production in the NFL with a guaranteed contract is it's about a 2% chance that this trade pans out for you. So this is one of the more disrespectful trades I've seen this year.
Agreed. I mean, just reject it and don't, or you just message him back. Are you serious? What's going on?
You can send, honestly, like, you will get a time code when you submit through the website. You'll get a time code to exactly when we answer your question, and you can send this time code to them. Whoever's doing this to Smandy, you know what you're doing. You're trying to take advantage of. This is a disgusting trade offer.
Don't be that guy.
This is embarrassing. If I sent this to someone, I would be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed that I tried to do that to them. Genuinely. And I like taking advantage of people because my team gets better. But I would be embarrassed if I sent that trade offer to someone.
Yeah.
It's not even close. So, hopefully that's helpful. And I have no problem if you send this to them and it upsets them because they know that what I'm saying is true. They just know what I'm saying is true. It's just not fair. All right, we got a trade question here from CRB56. Considering this trade, I'm stacked at wide receiver, and DK might miss a few weeks, plus lacking at tight end. Good to go? Okay, so they send away DK, Brown, and Kincaid. They get back Brian Robinson and McBride. The way I view this trade is McBride and DK probably have a similar value if you were to do a redraft. And then the question is Brian Robinson or Kincaid and Chase Brown. And to me, it's very clearly Brian Robinson. So I'm actually totally fine with this deal. How do you feel? I mean, especially in a 10-team start 7, if you can get an impact tight end like McBride, I think that's a really good offer.
Yeah, I think this is great. I mean, you have a great lineup here. Jalen Hurts, Kyron Williams with Joe Mixon. You get Brian Robinson on this lineup here. Add Trey McBride. You have CeeDee, Godwin, and you could probably plug in Brian Robinson in that flex position. You have Nick Chubb here as well. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this trade.
Yeah, I think that's a fair deal, and I like it. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Hey, we have a question from Jose. How can I get access to the whole team and trades on screen? So, hey, if anybody is out there and they don't have an account on Flock Fantasy, I just want to let you know you can create one for free. And how you can do that is by, I'll put a link in the chat for you. You can sign up with the promo code LAND. Make sure you're signing up with the code LAND because when you do, I'll take you to our website here. This is some of the things you get for free just as a thank you for signing up, okay? So, for example, you get the My Teams feature for free. As long as you are in a ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo, or League, you can link your league up and see where you rank amongst expert consensus rankings. You get the expert consensus rankings for free. You get the trade finder for free. So, for example, let's say you have Patrick Mahomes and you're like, I want to sell this bum. What trades have people done recently for Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray? Well, now you get to see real trades across real leagues. These aren't ideas. These are real trades that have happened in real leagues. And I'll show you the exact format. You can also change the settings of what sort of leagues you want to look at completed trades from. You've also got the trade calculator. So there's so many benefits to just signing up for a free account, but you get these free things when you sign up with the promo code LAND. So definitely, if you haven't gotten a free account yet, go do it. And then once you link your team, it's so easy to ask a question through the site. All right, I'll paste that link in the chat as well to ask a question through the site. So for example, you want to ask a trade question. Okay, great. Well, you've already got your team linked. It has your settings. And now all you need to do is tell us the player that you are sending away. For example, I'm sending away Trevor Lawrence and I'm getting back Sam Darnold. Obviously, I wouldn't do this in Dynasty, but it's already got your team linked, and you can, choose what team you're trading with, etc. It's just a great experience for you. So just to clarify for everybody. But the next question that I can see here is from Acapade.
Yeah, appreciate you.
I'm saying that wrong.
Acapade? Escape. I have Kyren Williams, Ramondre Stevenson, CD, Nico, Metcalf, Mooney on the bench. He also has JT, and you are sending Tank Bigsby and T. Higgins and receiving David Montgomery. So I think this is wide receiver CD, Nico, Metcalf, Mooney on the bench. Yeah, I think this is great because I think you can't trust in Ramondre Stevenson right now. I'm just not sure what's happening. So I would be okay with this trade. I would say this. I think you could potentially squeeze out more. Am I crazy there? With the way Tank is playing and T. Higgins?
I believe we need to reassess T. Higgins' rest of season because this
because
is multiple weeks now. It's like 3 to 4 weeks. When did he come back? He came back in week 3. But from week 4 onwards, he was fully healthy. I just want to show you guys something real quick, okay? From week 4 onwards, T. Higgins is the wide receiver 3 in fantasy football. T. Higgins is 4th in targets. He has more targets than DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. And if you look at points per game, he's averaging more points per game than Terry, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors. Points per game, not total. So, and this offense, as good as Chase Brown is and Zach Moss are, they're going to be pass focused the entire rest of the way. They have to be. They have to win games that way. Their defense isn't good enough, and they don't have a game-changing running back. They have to win through the air. So there's a chance that from this point onwards, T. Higgins is going to be like top 10 in targets per game the rest of the season. So I do think we have to slightly reassess our value on T. Higgins. So in saying that, I actually feel like the T. Higgins side of this is getting more value, even though David Montgomery is an absolute stud.
The only reason why I would be a little bit hesitant is just because of what's going to be happening with Tank Bigsby. Obviously, he had 2 games over that 20-plus points. His first game, or technically his second game, was last week where he scores over 23 points. What happens if Travis Etienne really takes over this backfield again?
Well, he will be involved. He 100%
he doesn't
will.
have his he doesn't have his team linked, unfortunately. But
yeah, I mean, what I was going to get into is just I think if there's a different name you could trade to make this happen, like for example, if you have a Devonta Smith, a Zay Flowers, someone that people perceive to be in that range, I mean, I might even prefer T. Higgins over Amari Cooper. I mean, I'm just throwing out like some name ideas here.
Sure.
But this is overall an even deal. I'd like to just adjust it if I can make T. Higgins a different name. And if I can't, I'm fine with it. But maybe you can add a middling name on your side. For example, can you add an Alexander Madison? just as a name to throw out there. Josh Downs after a bad game, one of those type of level players to make it a 2 for 2. But overall, I just wanted to include that entire context. I think it's fair if this is the best deal that you can get.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well. And I think we don't have any more questions on the website. Let me just refresh here.
We will have to do these team reviews at some point, but we do have a super chat over on YouTube.
Which I think is the one and only super chat, but
we had a super chat from Alvaro, but I don't see any question, and
I saw that.
He hasn't dropped the question, so...
Yeah. But we'll wait and see. Brian Thomas from Marvin Harrison, half PPR thoughts.
Here we are.
Yeah, just here we
are.
And
it's not a crazy question to ask.
Nah, it's not. It's just tough, man. It's tough because we haven't seen... Not that we haven't seen, but... I think... I would say this. There's less mouths to feed on Marvin's team. Brian Thomas right now feels like the floor is higher from what we've seen so far in the season.
I don't know the answer to this question, if I'm being honest.
I don't know the answer to this either. I would say this. I just want the person that might be on a better offense with a better quarterback.
I'm not even sure that's true. That's my problem.
Well,
I'm not sure he's a better player. I'm not sure he's in the better offense. I'm not sure he has a more reliable quarterback. And if you look at... Yes. And if you look at the schedule for the next 4 weeks, you've got Marvin who has to play the Chargers. Terrible matchup tonight, but he could overcome it. He has to play the Dolphins, which is actually a very difficult matchup. They have a good secondary. The Chicago Bears, the Jets. That's his next 4 games. Brian's next 4 games, the Packers, the Eagles, who you can throw on, the Vikings, who you can throw on, the Lions, who you can throw on. Now, you also have to consider that one... No, they both haven't had their bye week either. So, I do think Brian Thomas is... I think they're equally valued. That's what I'll say. If you have a strong indication towards either name, I don't hate if you want to go get Brian Thomas. The next 4 weeks should be better for him. And if you want to reassess after that, you can.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I am going to go Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
And because of the things that I said, I know like the matchups are going to be tougher. But I think Kyler Murray, from the history that we see, maybe not for this year, but just the bigger overall span, I just feel like Kyler Murray could take it there for Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's what I'm believing for. Obviously, he got injured last week. I think before that, he was... Well, he probably wasn't a top 10 wide receiver. Let's see, in the first 5 weeks of the season where he was. He was wide receiver 18, and Brian Thomas was wide receiver 9. But if you were to take out week 1, where he had a bad week, he was a top 8 wide receiver, and Brian Thomas was a top 10 wide receiver. So I feel like that's both pretty even at the moment.
Yeah.
Essentially, you had Marvin Harrison miss 2 games. Like week 1 was nothing, and then week 6 he missed that. He didn't get any points, right? So, anyways, that's a long-winded answer, but
I hear
I'll
you.
take mine.
I think
Marvin.
really you can make a case either way here. I really do. But I
the cockroach. That's right.
It's actually funny because typically you and I would be opposite sides of this, but I just feel like in the next 4 weeks, I want you guys to think about this. How often does your opinion change on how you value a player each week? A lot of people, that's the case. Their opinion changes each week. Is it multiple weeks? Well, in the next 4 weeks, I'd rather have Brian Thomas in almost every game. So that's what makes it tough for me. I think I'm going to go Brian, but I can see it either way. I really can.
Yeah.
We got a question here from Sarah Klein. Goff or Prescott? Also, should I drop Porta for TJ? I would make sure TJ's on my rosters. I wouldn't drop Laporta for him. But, I mean, there's got to be someone else that you can drop. But I would definitely make sure he's a priority add. And then for next week, Goff or Dak.
Goff plays the Titans at home. Dak Prescott plays the 49ers on Sunday Night Football
Be going Dak personally.
in San Francisco. I'll be going Dak as well. Should be a game. They're coming off a bye week. You kind of expect them to come out hot and heavy, just trying to get the ball rolling because of how disappointing it's been for the first couple of weeks or first half of the season for those guys.
Yeah, I'm there with you, brother. I am right there with you. And I do think that we're gonna see better game from Dak Prescott coming up in the future here. All right, we got some team reviews that we have to get to. And we also just got a question that was submitted through the site. So let's get to that question via the site here, which was from TJ Graft. It's a super message. 12-team PPR start 8. Hold on Polk and Corum or pick up Clyde, Pearsall, Hardman, Jalen Wright, or Estime. I definitely would pick up Pearsall over Polk at this point.
Yeah. I would just say this for Polk. If you have Polk, I think he's droppable. It's not happening. Maybe not this year. Maybe not at all.
Yeah, I said this on the Stock Exchange guys stream. I was watching them. I said they drafted the wrong Washington Husky. Should have been Jalen McMillan.
Hey.
They should have drafted McMillan. McMillan's been better than Polk, and he's a wide receiver 3 on his own team.
Yeah, so I would agree with you in the sense that you should drop Polk.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I'm not going to drop Coleman for any of those names, though, and here's why. Because every single player that you're mentioning is going... Yeah, Corum, sorry. Okay, every single player that you're mentioning is going to have an injury as well to be relevant, right? So, for example, Corum needs Kyron to be injured, but Clyde needs Hunt to go down. Jalen needs Achane and maybe Mostert both to go down. Estime needs Javonte to go down. So they're all in the same scenario, but Corum's going to have the most value if you hit on an injury ahead of you.
Yeah, so I would hold Corum and drop Polk for... I see Pearsall there. I would pick up Pearsall. That would be the first guy I would pick up personally.
Yeah, I agree.
If you can. So drop Polk, pick up Pearsall.
Drop Polk, pick up Pearsall. Yeah, we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
All right.
Also,
let's get to this team review. All right, we're going to review Shawnee's Dynasty team. If you guys want a team review, you can definitely check out the link in the pinned comment. It'll bring you to a site that looks like this. And we're about to do a Dynasty team review here for Shanzi. So Shanzi says, hey, fellas, getting another review in a different league. 12-man Superflex Dynasty. Was able to draft a strong wide receiver room and feel okay about Trevor Lawrence May, but I'm 3-3 and want to be able to capitalize on a championship potential. Let me know what I can do. Thanks. So his team name is Wide Receiver U, which makes him 5th out of 12 teams in our expert consensus rankings in the team league analyzer, if you will. So right now he is 5th when you consider obviously like team, draft capital, everything. So why don't you walk us through his team here for us? And remember, 12 team super flex start 9. So I'll bring up the information on that as you walk us through it.
No worries. Looks like you're 5th according to expert consensus rankings. Here you have Drizzy Drake May with Trevor Lawrence, which is great in a dynasty so far. Well, maybe great for Drake May. I'm okay to start moving on from Trevor Lawrence. Whatever that looks like, it's probably not the best time to move on from him. But yes, I think right now for this year, this is a great lineup at the quarterback room. I think he might be a little bit short if one of these guys go on a bye week like Trevor or Drake. At the running back position, you have Ramondre Stevenson, Tyrone Tracy, James Conner with Devin Singletary and Sweet Baby Rays. I would say coming into the season, if you tell you have Ramondre Stevenson and James Conner just for this year, that would have been I would have been okay with that. But at the moment, you're struggling.
Yeah. Ramondre.
And by the way, what the hell is happening with James Conner? Is the guy playing?
There's been this entire year. There's never been less information on a player's injury than James Conner. For this entire week.
He gets hurt last week, but this is a completely different tangent. Gets hurt last week. I mean, only played 28% of the snaps.
Crazy.
I'm pretty sure he leaves the game for a significant amount of time. and as if nothing has happened.
Yeah.
Is he injured? Is he not injured? What the hell is happening? Anyways, but yes, coming into the season, we'll be like, okay, that's fine. But look, you have some high upside players specifically for Dynasty. I would say you still look. Ramondre Stevenson still gets a long-term contract. You have Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary, who looks like they're going to be the 1-2 tandem there. With Tyrone is actually taking over that backfield specifically from last week.
You almost wish Devin Singletary was out for the year if you have Tyrone in Dynasty.
Yeah. Wide receivers is CeeDee, Nico, Amon-Ra, Mike Evans, Josh Downs, Wandale, Christian Watson.
You can start 4 in this format, right? This is a start 9 super flex, so that's 2 flex spots, 2 wide receivers. Or he has 3 wide receivers and 1 flex. But either way, you can only start 4 wide receivers.
Yeah, so from CeeDee to Mike Evans, those are your four starting wide receivers, which is phenomenal there. You don't have to worry about it. Obviously, Nico Collins is out, so you're probably going flip-flopping between Josh Downs and Wandale. And then you have Travis Kelce and Tucker Kraft here at the tight end position, what looks like all of your dynasty picks.
Honestly,
in the future.
This is a pretty good team. I mean, this team is built to win now and also in the future outside of the running back room. But if you were to give this a grade, let's say A to F, I'm leaning like a neutral B. I'd say B range.
Agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Obviously, the running back room is a little bit tough, and you do have an older, well, not really older. You have one older piece in Mike Evans, but yes, this is a great team overall.
You've got a lot of great foundational pieces in May and Lawrence. I would say Lawrence because of the long-term contract and because of Brian Thomas becoming a star. Names like CeeDee, Nico, Amon-Ra, Tucker Kraft even. I mean, that's what, 5-6 foundational names that you can build around, and you have win now pieces. I think what this team might need is let's identify needs, because he wants to take advantage of the championship window. That's what he said in his review tab here, right? Mm-hmm. So if he wants to do that, I think areas of need would be a quarterback 3, a cheap veteran quarterback 3, and I have some names in mind. Yep. And then also a RB, a mid-range veteran running back, if he can acquire that. Those are the 2 things he needs to do. Now, what we don't want to do is send our first-round pick away, because that's just reckless to operate that. We don't want to send any future first-round picks away, but there are ways that we can get this done. The veteran quarterbacks that come to mind to me would be a Geno Smith with the way that he's playing in that offense, a Kirk Cousins, a Sam Darnold. Those are the 3 names that came to mind to me instantly. I don't know if you had other names in mind, but
the only other person I would have said is like Matthew Stafford or Aaron Rodgers, if those guys aren't on competing teams already.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah, so those are the names I think that would make a lot of sense to add. In Dynasty, we typically don't have defense and kicker, so we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I would say so let's start there. Let's start at quarterback 3. And by the way, you don't have to make this move. You really don't have to. So maybe let's look at this in a second, because what you really have to do is add running back. That should be your priority. So let's start there. Don't you agree? Like he technically doesn't need a quarterback 3, but it would feel good.
Technically.
He needs
it would feel good to have that
improve the running back room. So why don't we look at one of the teams that are really low in the standings? For example, 1 and 5, they have James Cook, Brian Robinson, and Christian McCaffrey. A bunch of great options there. So, for example, Brian Robinson. Can we get a Brian Robinson on this team? That would feel great to have that depth. Would you send away Josh Downs and a third, as an example, or a Christian Watson and a third, or Wandale Robinson and a third? Or you can send either of those wide receivers away and attach it with a second and get back Brian Robinson and a third, a pick swap, right?
Perfect. Let's do that.
Those are some great options for you. Christian McCaffrey is going to be too expensive, but if this guy's 1 and 5, I mean, could you send him? I don't know. Could you send him, like, he's probably thinking about the future. Could you send him Josh Downs in a second and get that done? Is that possible? Yeah. I'd try it. I don't think you get James Cook from him, though. ATJ is 2 and 4 in this league, and they don't really have anyone that can help you. I mean, they have Kareem Hunt. Could you send them a third for Kareem Hunt? I'd do that.
Yeah, get Kareem on the team.
Kareem Hunt is completely irrelevant in Dynasty after this year. So if you can get a third for him, he's the perfect band-aid to that running back room. This 2 and 4 team has Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb. I'd prefer to go grab Alvin Kamara. Again, could you do Josh Downs and a second?
The pick swaps is probably ideal there, or adding. Yeah.
Josh Downs in a second, receiving Kamara in a third. Could you add Nick Chubb for a second round pick? Those are some deals that I think could make a lot of sense for you. Hanging with Hernandez. Oh, jeez. Oh, wow. Sorry.
Okay, Walker.
DeAndre Swift could be an ad. Could you send him Josh Downs straight up? He needs better wide receivers. Could you send him Josh Downs in a second, get Swift in a third? Again, like that kind of idea. I wouldn't send Mike Evans away personally. I know we had that idea in the chat. It's not a terrible idea, but I think he really maximizes your win now window as your fourth wide receiver on a weekly basis.
Agree. You keep Mike Evans here.
Okay, sorry. Those are all my ideas at running back. I don't want to overspeak, but if you have any other ideas, let me know.
No, the other guy I was going to say was DeAndre Swift. I think everyone else is a little bit tough right now because they're all in the middle of the pack, either 3 and 3 like yourself, or 1 and 5. So I doubt some of these guys are going to want to try and trade because they probably want to see. But I would say this: let's just say you do end up being, you do end up getting a couple more wins here. Maybe some of those 3 and 3 teams start to lose, right? And then maybe you can go out and try and target some of those guys. So someone I can see here on a 3 and 3 team. Let's just see. Apple. Ooh, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs. I doubt he's going to give anyone here away. What about Bofa?
Luke Balls, maybe if he starts to lose, Derrick Henry could be an option.
Luke Balls? Why don't I see that team? Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah, Derrick Henry is interesting. Aaron Jones is also another running back here that I would be targeting. He might be a one to acquire now because of all that depth. Actually, like he probably needs depth at wide receiver. I think Luke Balls might be somebody because he lost Rashid Shaheed. He's probably starting these running backs at that flex position anyway. So can you go out and send once again the Josh Downs in the third or the second?
Yeah.
Or a pick swap to get an Aaron Jones or the Derrick Henrys like Zach was kind of mentioning. But I think so far this is decent.
And I think that's the kind of format in a trade you want to do when you're getting a deal done here. Like we said, using Downs, Wandale, or Watson plus a second, to get one of those players and maybe a third back, or if it's a better player, you keep, that player. So hopefully that makes sense. And then at quarterback, Geno Smith makes a ton of sense, but ultimately if he's on a team that's competing, they're not going to get rid of him. So again, let's look towards those bad teams. ATJ, for example. I don't want Andy Dalton in Dynasty. No, not really an option there. How about Jay Brock? For example, could you get Sam Darnold from this guy? That could be perfect. Can you send him a second round pick for Darnold? That could be a great move for you, or a second round value on your team. Let's see. 1 and 5 team has Kirk Cousins perfectly. We just talked about that. Can you send a second for Kirk Cousins as a quarterback 3? Also hanging with Hernandez. No options there. So I think those are kind of the main moves that you'd want to make. Like Badaki said, if some of these 3 and 3 teams start to lose, you could look at quarterback options there. But I think you are a quarterback 3, veteran quarterback 3, and a veteran running back away from really going on a run here, as long as your players stay healthy.
Yeah, you really have to really hope that Ramondre Stevenson picks it up, or maybe it gets a little bit better, and Tyrone Tracy starts to play like he was playing just a couple weeks ago. So look, you do have some high upside players here that could really help you if they just get back to that form that they were playing in the first 4 weeks of the season. Yeah. If not, then you're gonna have to make those moves. So I would say you probably have another week to just feel it out. Let's say Ramondre Stevenson, even though he is not somebody I'm going to want to be starting next week, he's playing the Jets. But if you want to feel it out, see what he does. Let's say he drops 13, 14 fantasy points, and you're getting a little bit more confident. Sure. But good luck going into this week.
I definitely hear where you're coming from. I think I'd want to make that running back move before this week, because they're starting to use 3 running backs in a bad offense.
It's terrible.
So I think I'd want to make that move before this week, but you don't have to force it. Of course, you can always come back to the website and ask a question if you have a certain trade, but we appreciate you, Sean. Good team, man. And I think we gave you good direction moving forward. feel free to come back on the stream at any point and ask us any questions. I think we did get a regular question on the site, so let's get to that.
Yeah.
Let's have a look
I
here.
can't spell win.
Yes.
Is his name. He
Already
says,
made
I
this
already
trade.
trade. Go ahead.
Sorry, league mates are saying I got robbed. What are your thoughts? My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. So you receive Brees Hall and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and you send away Jamar Chase and
I
take
mean,
Bigsby.
how is this? This is even. Where's the rob? How did you get robbed? As well, by the way. I mean, Brees Hall could be the RB1 rest of season with the way they're using him. Where's the robbery here? Can you explain it to me?
Where's the robbery?
Oh, it's a dynasty
think-
team. Oh, it's dynasty. That makes more sense.
Yeah, not ideal. I'm assuming this is him in the chat. It says I have Hill, Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Higgins. Okay, maybe that's not him. Never mind.
Okay.
Maybe.
Look. I didn't realize it was dynasty.
In a 10 team, start 8.
Look, it's
Yeah.
it's not. You didn't get robbed. We wouldn't make this deal in dynasty. I'd make it a redraft. I wouldn't make
It's-
this deal in dynasty because the running back position is injured more than any other position.
Exactly.
We want to build around wide receivers, especially tier 1 guys like Jamar Chase. I think JSN is an upgrade over Bigsby, especially when
Yep.
Lockett leaves. But it's not robbery. I definitely prefer the Chase side in dynasty, but it's not something crazy.
No, and kind of like what Zach was saying, and I kind of go into that a little bit deeper. It's like, the running back position lifespan in fantasy is not like if you're new to dynasty. I can't spell win. Basically, what we're trying to say is like the running back span. Not only do they get injured often, but their lifespan for their careers are normally shorter. Specifically, and also fantasy, right? You can kind of see that. I'm not saying that's happening already with Brees Hall. But you can see how, like, if they wanted to just have a 2-headed monster with Braylon Allen,
Yeah, exactly.
and we saw that already with the rookie. What if they brought in somebody else that has experience? That is
All it
that
takes is a
could
coach
take-
to say, you know what, we want Brees to split carries, to stay healthy, and to always have a fresh legs on the field. Okay.
Yeah,
Then
and in
Brees'
redraft, that's
attempt share goes from 80% to 60%, and that's how
that's-
fast it can happen.
with Jamar Chase, we still kind of believe in him. Obviously, T. Higgins has kind of been overtaking him the last couple weeks, but he's still a long-term answer here with Joe Burrow, and T. Higgins is on that franchise tag.
And
He
those
could potentially
targets
be
will
moved.
never stop for Chase.
Yeah. So I would definitely want the Jamar Chase side of this deal in a dynasty perspective. In a redraft perspective, I think Zach and I agree. I don't want to see how you got robbed. Like, let's just say this is redraft and you're watching this and maybe you didn't meant click dynasty. This is an even trade, in my opinion.
But yeah, in a Dynasty 1 quarterback, Jamar Chase would be, he'd be eligible for the 101 in a 1 quarterback Dynasty league. Whereas Brees Hall is probably a first round pick. Yeah, he's a first round pick, but he's more into the first round because he's a running back. But to be fair, like a 10 team league, you've got to value running backs a little bit more than a 12 team anyway. It's not like it's a start 10. So I don't think this is an egregious trade. I don't think it's crazy at all. But Jamar Chase is one of the most valuable players in a 1 quarterback dynasty league. So it's not bad. It honestly isn't bad. It's just not what we would prefer to have done.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Do I have any more questions through the stream, or do we go to this team review?
I know this game is about to start. I think this Ravens game starts at 11, not 11.
Oh, does it start at 11? If so, we'll have to do
I-
that review later.
I think so. Let me just triple check here.
11:15.
It says 11. Okay, we can do this team review then. I thought it was earlier for some reason, but
Yeah, I think they did that. I think they did that before, so that's my. Yeah, it's not crazy.
that's why I thought that.
Yeah.
But
All right. We have a
I'll
dynasty team review here from
have a look.
Crush 5, but there's no context unless you can see any in the messages. But
I don't see any in the messages
Okay.
here, so
no context, but we do have his team name. His team name is D. Leffler 26. It is a 2 quarterback, 12 team start, 10 PPR, no tight end premium. He is number 1 by far in his league. It's not even close.
you are Thanos.
He is the Thanos, exactly. Now, why don't we go ahead and have a look at his team here? He's 10-2, so obviously this league has against the median. And walk us through his team as I get his lineup for us.
No worries. Jaden Daniels, Justin Fields, Bo Nix. So look, I think this is a decent quarterback room. Obviously, you have Jaden Daniels and you have Bo Nix, who we both believe in coming in, and you also have that Steelers quarterback room as well, which is fine. So at least you have option if Jaden Daniels is going to miss some time. But I think long term, we are big believers in Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. So you're fine.
He looks great.
Yeah. At the running back position, Saquon, Javonte, Singletary, Rico. This is probably the downfall here is your RB2. Obviously Javonte had a good game on Thursday night, but we don't really expect that to happen week in and week out.
He plays the Panthers next week, so that could be another great game where you could sell high on him.
Yeah, I would agree there. You can start up to 5 wide receivers. And here are your starting 5: Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas, Mike Evans.
Just lost Ayuk.
And now you just lost Ayuk. And now you don't really have anyone to step. But you have Romeo, who's been playing decent.
Yeah.
You might be able to start Romeo, but then your depth really just goes to shit here, respectfully. Yeah. With Rashid out for the rest of the season, Adonai Mitchell, you can't start. Jalen Hyatt, Tez Walker, the list goes on. Yeah. And then obviously at the tight end position, you have Cole Kmet, who's been up and down, and that's also probably your second weakest point here is your tight end position.
Not a bad team. I mean, I'll be honest. For it to be so high above the other teams in the league analyzer, I thought it would be a little stronger. Specifically at like RB2 and tight end, but it's still a good team. If we were to give this a grade from an A to an F, this feels like another solid B flat to me.
I agree.
Maybe B minus.
I agree. Obviously, once again, RB2 is not the strongest. So if you were to ask us, hey, what can you do here to gain anything? Obviously, you're 10-2 and you're winning right now. I'm not necessarily sure I want to give up any draft capital to go out and get somebody at the RB2 position. Or to even get another flex wide receiver here, because that means you're really going to have to give up something significant that I don't want to give up my 25 first or 26 first. You don't have your 25 second. Now, if you had your 25 second, we'll say, okay, maybe you can go out and get something. But I'm not sure if he can.
Well,
or if he should.
You don't really have the depth to make a move like that either. You don't have the depth to say, all right, let me use, in Ayuk, you don't want to trade him now. He's going to be tough to trade now. But you can't say, let me use Mike Evans and go get a running back because, well, Mike Evans is important because you have 3 flexes, 5 wide receivers that you can start. So you're going to have to rely on Mike Evans and another no-name, maybe like Dobbs. So you don't really have the depth to make any crazy moves here. And you don't have the strength at tight end to tear down. You can't tear down from Kmet. I don't really want to lose Daniels. I'm not going to, that would be where my mind goes. Well, we can use Daniels in a tear down. But no, you want to build around Jaden Daniels long term. I want to build around Bo Nix. Can we use Justin Fields or Russell Wilson as a way to improve this team?
And that's kind of where I was looking at with this quarterback room in the league here. The thing is, I'm not necessarily sure if there's a team that's going to want to do that. That's in the middle of the pack right now.
Most of these bottom of the pack teams
are not going to want to.
How about the 6-6 team who has Mahomes and Goff?
Mahomes and Goff. Let's see. See, I would be okay with that quarterback room.
Yeah, I agree.
With Aaron Rodgers,
make a move.
The team that I was thinking of is Rough Riders, Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, with Aiden O'Connell.
That's a good team to target.
This is probably the team, if they want to make a push, you can probably package those quarterbacks and see what you can get.
Yeah, package those quarterbacks and try and get a Jonathan Brooks, right? With Chuba Hubbard playing so well. See if that's an option. Can you send Russell Wilson alone for Tony Pollard? Can you send Russell Wilson alone for Jameson Williams? Can you send Justin Fields alone for Jameson Williams?
Yeah, there you go.
Those are some names that could make a lot of sense. I don't know that there's another team where...
I don't think so either.
They really need quarterback. unfortunately. I think the teams, like your league is very clear in who's competing and who's not. For example, the 4-8 team with, Dak and Deshaun. Well, actually, he just lost Deshaun. Maybe he does want to compete. I mean, can you send Justin Fields for
true.
Brian Robinson? Can you send Russell Wilson for Brian Robinson? That would make a lot of sense. Can you package those guys for Terry McLaurin? Right? That deal could make sense for him.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
How about the guy who has Kyler and A-Rich?
Kyler and A-Rich.
Can you send Russell Wilson for Chris Godwin? Probably can't. How about Justin Fields if people believe in him long term? Can you go get a Chris Godwin? That could make sense for your team. But yeah, most of these teams are quite defined. I mean, you could try and target a DeAndre Swift for a Russ, but this guy probably doesn't need it. He's got May, Lawrence, and Stafford.
Yeah.
I think those are really the main ideas that you can do with those quarterbacks, though.
Yeah, that's kind of where I would lean there, but I wouldn't want. Look, Javonte, like Zach said, I don't know what you can go out and get to then trade high for him. Maybe then you can trade for a second round pick. I doubt you're going to get a first.
Well, if he wants to compete, we might have to stay
with Javonte or somehow pivot. But I don't know if you can pivot.
If you can trade Javonte potentially. Like, for example, let's say Javonte has another great game versus the Carolina Panthers. Maybe there's some more belief in a Dynasty League on Javonte's value. Well, can you go get a Brian Robinson, which we talked about? I feel better about B-Rob moving forward. Can you go get a Trey Benson if you decide that you don't want to compete rest of the season? Can you go get a Joe Mixon if you want to compete right now?
What about other names like
that can make sense?
Like, I'm not sure if we can get those guys. I'm thinking, like, the names that was coming up to me in a win now scenario that was like, I don't care about age, is like a James Conner, or
I'd rather just hold Javonte with the age to Conner.
I doubt you can get Aaron Jones.
I'd rather hold Javonte there. Again, he's younger, he's playable.
Yeah, I get it. I think it just depends on how people feel about Javonte.
Yeah. Other names, if you can get a second for Rico Dowdle or Devin Singletary, you do it in a heartbeat. You honestly could potentially trade Rashid Shaheed as well to upgrade at running back. If you package Shaheed in a future second to a team that believes in him long term after that injury. Outside of that, man, I don't think there's many moves to make. I mean, you can't trade Jamar Chase. You can't trade Marvin or Brian. Those are or Daniels. Those are foundational pieces. Saquon, you wouldn't really want to trade unless you decide you don't want to compete anymore if your team falls apart, but you're 10-2.
Yeah, agreed.
So right now, I think it's a little bit about holding on. And the good news is you have a first-round pick in 2025. It's a good running back class, so you should be able to add to your weakness. And let's say you add a Travion Henderson or a Judkins, your running back room is going to look much better. It's going to look deeper. You already have great quarterbacks. You already have a great wide receiver room. And then you really need to figure out the tight end position long term. But Cole Kmet, I mean, he's looking good. So I think really the only moves that you can make with this team is with the Fields-Russell Wilson duo. And then again, if you can sell Singletary, Rico, or Shaheed, I think it's worth exploring.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well.
Outside of that, good team. You're kind of top heavy, but as long as your players can stay healthy, like you can't afford another Ayuk or Shaheed injury. As long as your players stay healthy, I think you got a chance this year.
Agreed. Completely agree.
All right. Appreciate you, Crush. Thanks for getting that team reviewed. I think we have another one, but we're not going to have time today. We do have a question, though.
We do have a question from Chase. Yeah, let's do this, Chase. He says, down 79.2 versus 127. Should I slide in McConkey over Connor with injuries concerned plus stack upside? Okay, so you considering James Conner?
Okay, I think he entered it in a strange way, but essentially I think he is basically asking
in the flex
would
option,
you play McConkey or Connor? Man, I honestly don't know the answer to this. What I would say
Justin
is
Herbert and Kyler Murray.
What I would say is if there's no reports of an injury for James Conner and we know that he's full go, I'd probably put him in. He's the safer play. I think McConkey's the higher floor.
I think McConkey is a higher floor. No Quinton tonight, which is really not that big of a deal. But they play the slot. Once again, they wanted to come out last week, throw the ball. Both of their top wide receivers get injured.
Is Connor out? Why did I haven't seen that report? Is James Conner out?
I haven't seen that report.
Mark Insoles just said he was out, but I haven't seen that report. I haven't seen any information on him.
I'm looking on Sleeper.
Oh,
I'm
he's
not
saying
seeing
to
it.
pick James Conner because Bosa's out. Right. Sure. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
I get
right.
you. My bad. I read that wrong.
Sure.
Look,
Look, Chase. Hopefully that I agree with Zach. If Connor's playing, you kind of play him. But if you're trying to go with that hella upside, I think Lamar McConkey can be the play just based on what we saw last week. Once again, they wanted to come out, throw the ball. They did that in the first drive to establish the game, and
Yeah.
both of their top wide receivers get injured in the first drive. Now, is that just a fluke? Did they just want to do that? I think Justin Herbert had his highest throwing attempts last week. So I think they wanted to change stuff last week. I don't know.
I'm going to lean Connor because of this. I think he's the safer play, but I do think the party play is McConkey.
It's lad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Chase. And we did get a team review from I Can't Spell Win, but we won't have time to do it today. But it is a dynasty team, so if you're out there, I Can't Spell Win, don't worry. We'll definitely get to you on a future stream. We just don't want to, we want to make sure it's value for you as well. But yeah, I think the last one is super chat from Jake, and then we'll log off.
Yeah, Jake, thank you so much. We appreciate you. He says need 3.5 points to win Bucky or Bateman.
Wow,
Man,
that's a good question.
surely Bucky can do that, no?
I think they both can. Bateman's been
Bateman
much
been
better
doing?
than people realize, though.
I haven't really realized. I mean, 3.3 fantasy points in week 4 against Buffalo. That's his
Well,
lowest.
that's the 1 week he's not done
I know,
well.
that's what I'm
Every
saying.
other week he's
That's what I'm
played
saying.
well.
That's the lowest. Bucky has 1 week with 2.2. Once again, 1 week that he hasn't done well. I feel like the floor is safer with Buckley, technically.
Yeah.
Well, you got to make a
I
decision.
think Bucky will touch the ball more than anyone else, so I'll go Bucky, but I wouldn't be surprised if the answer is Bateman. But I'll go Bucky.
Yeah, I think both should be fine, genuinely.
Yeah.
I think they should both score over 3 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 2 catches for like 10 yards, essentially. That's nothing.
Which makes me say Bateman because that's 35 yards for Bucky if he doesn't get a catch.
Yeah. Out in Raymond James Stadium, another Tampa Bay
I'm going to say Bateman.
first down.
Good luck. All right, guys.
luck.
Appreciate you. We'll see you guys soon. All love. Go check out the waiver video. It's already up. And see you soon. Love.
Love.